Hello, welcome to the Prime Podcast. This is our 13th episode. I'm going to talk about the week in consumer electronics and technology news. And I'm going to talk about things like the HTC 8X and 8S Windows phones, as well as Intel and our thoughts on Windows 8, as well as the new Barnes & Noble Nook HD and HD Plus, and how they compare to the Kindle Fires and the Nexus 7. And I'll also talk about the Galaxy Note 2 and how it's arriving in the United States. So let's go and get started with our first topic, which is HTC and 8X and 8S. But before I do that, I'm going to kind of talk about a little server or website you should probably check out. It is called Red Halo, and you can go to redhalo.com to check it out. And essentially, it's a Minecraft server, and it's a server. If you probably know Minecraft if you have been on the internet much at all lately. You know that Minecraft is a very, very popular game where you essentially walk around and you place blocks, you build things, and there are mobs and things. You can fight mobs, and there are like mini games in the game on some servers like this one where you can do things like survival. You fight other people PvP, and whoever survives the longest wins. Things like that. That's what Minecraft's all about. And I've been playing on the server called Red Hell lately. I'm actually a moderator on the server now. And Red Hell is one of my favorite servers I've been to lately, and it's available for anyone who wants to join. All you have to do is go to redhalo.com, click on the Join tab at the top, and then you'll be presented with a little whitelist form. Fill it out with information like your name, age, email, Minecraft username, and we'll go ahead and whitelist you as soon as we see that your request is there, and then you can join our server. So the server address is server@hello.com. Add that to your Minecraft client. You can join us, and you can check out the server. And actually, we do, or we're planning to do an event in the near future where we are going to essentially run this event, and it's gonna be like a capture the flag sort of thing, and we'll publish it on YouTube and stuff. Not on this channel, but on the Red Halo server channel, which we'll have a link to in the description below somewhere. And you can also find it from the website. Just click on social and then YouTube, or there's a YouTube button at the bottom of the page. But you should check out Red Halo. It's a pretty good server, and I can help you out if you want a good start to the server, because I'm a mod, and I have a nice city I actually started up on the new world. So let's go ahead and actually get started on the first article, which is the HTC 8X and 8S. Both of them are Windows phones running Windows Phone 8, and essentially they're what HTC is going to do to compete with Nokia Lumia 920 and 820. Those are the two ones, but essentially Nokia announced a couple of new Windows phones earlier this month, I think, and both of those phones are really high end. Really much better than what we saw with the past with Windows Phone 7 and Windows Phone 7.5. The 8X is HTC's flagship Windows Phone, and it is a pretty standard Windows Phone device with a 4.3-inch display at a 720p resolution, a speedy 1.5 GHz dual-core processor, 1 GB of RAM, 16 GB of storage, NFC, which is kind of nice, along with an 8 megapixel camera, and most likely support 4G LTE in the United States. And one thing I really noticed with Windows Phone 8 is that Microsoft's really just pushing hardware, because essentially in the past Microsoft's made these Windows phones kind of use lower end hardware, kind of be obsolete, not really compared directly with Android phones. Well, these newer Windows Phone 8 devices are very, very similar in hardware to the latest Android phones, like 1.5 GHz dual core. That's similar to what's in the Samsung Galaxy S3 in the United States. So these parts that are used in these Windows phones this year are essentially what we see in Android phones right now. Of course, this could change in the near future when new Android phones come out, but for right now, these Windows phones are really like flagship. They're actually really high-end, decent phones, which is something we haven't seen in the past. And that's a really good thing if you want a Windows phone and developers want to get games for the Windows phone. This can really help them out with these faster parts, allow you to run more games, better multitasking, things like that. HTC will begin selling the 8X later this November in blue, black, red, and yellow, and it will be in the United States on AT&T and T-Mobile, as well as Verizon, and expect very competitive pricing of around $200 on a contract. That's just the normal price for a smartphone on a contract, but it could cost less than that. We don't know. I'm just kind of predicting that's the price. So let's say that you don't want to pay $200 on a contract, and you're still wanting a Windows phone, then you might be interested in the more low-end HTC 8S. The 8S is a more low-end version of the 8X. It's in many ways similar. It has a similar 4-inch WPG display. Of course, it's at a lower resolution, it's slightly smaller, but it's still a good display. It has a slightly slower processor, but still a pretty good 1 GHz dual core processor. Less storage at 4 gigabytes, and less high quality camera at only 5 megapixels. Just like with 8X, 8S also has Beats audio, which is something that's kind of unique to these HTC phones. If you want a good camera, you can go with the Nokia phones. But if you want a good sound system, you might want these HTC phones, since Beats audio, it is in many ways just a marketing term. But I've seen that these Beats audio devices actually have slightly better audio quality, and they're just generally louder than other phones on the market. So I guess HTC just focuses on the audio quality with these phones. And they just call it Beats Audio, so it's branded as something. And it's a pretty impressive phone for a low-end device, which is really what HTC is marketing it as. It'll arrive in November in multiple colors, and most likely around the United States, costing around $100 on a 2-year contract. Moving on to our second article, we're going to talk about Intel and what their opinions are on the Windows 8 operating system. So as you might already know, Windows 8 is due to arrive in less than a month. It'll arrive in mid to late October. And Windows 8 is really just an impressive launch. In the past, Microsoft has just done very, very small updates like Windows 95 to 2000, just more features and a slightly different user interface. Windows 95 or Windows 2000 to XP, we got a new color for the taskbar. And Windows XP to Vista and 7, all the versions kind of have a similar look, but just more like visual effects, just slightly different things in the search box, things like that. But overall, Microsoft kind of stuck to that start menu, start button, and then a list of applications on the bottom of the screen. And we've seen that for the last 15, 16 years, and Microsoft is actually kind of stepping away from that older user interface and moving to something new that they call Metro with Windows 8. That's because Windows 8 is more designed for tablets, is really what Microsoft is doing. It's kind of the future. Microsoft sees that many people might have computers, but they are probably in the near future going to only have just a tablet and have that as their main device, at least for the general consumer. And for other people, they still have the Windows desktop. That is slightly modified. There isn't that start button anymore, but you can still press the Windows button, go back to the Metro user interface, and just type the searches like you would in Windows 7 or Windows Vista. So Windows 8 is going to be a really big update as far as the user interface goes and features go and everything goes, because it's just completely new, and it's just designed for a whole different kind of device, which is a tablet. And I've been personally using Windows 8 for over a year now, or about a year, and overall it really does feel like a finished and complete operating system to me. But Intel, on the other hand, they really think that Windows 8 is just kind of unfinished, and that's coming from Intel CEO Paul Otini, and it's just kind of interesting. But actually, today they actually announced that they didn't really mean that it was unfinished. But I still think that many of these companies are still kind of thinking that Windows 8 is kind of a bad idea because it's so radically different compared to what we've seen in the past with Windows updates. And Intel, actually, they might have some slight issues because Windows 8 is designed for tablets that run ARM processors, not Intel processors. So there's really big market share that Intel could lose when Windows 8 arrives. But from what I can tell, Windows 8 may not be a complete operating system. But that's because Windows 8 might be the transition away from the 3-year update cycle that Microsoft did in the past to an annual update cycle. In other words, in the past, Microsoft updated Windows every 3 years. So 3 years ago there was Windows 7, 3 years before that there was Windows Vista, and 3 years before that there was Windows XP. Now Microsoft will actually launch updates yearly, so every next year we'll see Windows 8.5 or 8.1 or just 8.2 or 8 or 9 maybe even. They'll just make an updated version of Windows. Then instead of selling it for $500 or $200 or whatever, it'll be sold for a lower price, maybe $20 or $30. And they'll just release those versions every single year. They're kind of like service packs with new features, maybe new user interface a little bit, things like that. Apple's already been doing this in the past by releasing things like Lion, Mountain Lion every single year, updating the operating system. And I really think this is a good idea for Microsoft to do this. It allows them to constantly update their operating system because Windows 7 now is a very outdated operating system. Same with Windows Vista and XP. 3 years after an operating system actually launches, it's a long time, and a lot happens as far as technology goes. So essentially, the operating system Windows 7 is kind of obsolete because it's just kind of old now. But essentially, one of those first key updates that Microsoft could do with Windows 8 is kind of fix all those bugs and issues that Intel is saying that Microsoft Windows 8 has. And Intel is saying that one of those issues is the dependency on the Windows desktop. So essentially, for example, right now at least, if you want to open the task manager, there isn't any Metro task manager. You do Control-Shift-Escape in the Metro user interface, and it'll be brought over to the older Windows desktop for the Windows desktop task manager. Things like that Microsoft's really wanting, or Intel's really wanting Microsoft to make the Metro user interface and the Windows desktop completely separate user interfaces and just overall ideas. Office 2013 in many ways will be very similar. Microsoft will sell Office 365, which offers frequent updates that include features for a small monthly fee. You pay $8 a month, and you get Office 365, which includes Office 2013 on up to 5 computers, I think. And Microsoft will update Office 365 frequently, so every year or so you'll get a new feature, a new thing with this Office 365 that you wouldn't get with Office 2013. So it's kind of nice there, and you also get SkyDrive storage and Skype minutes. Microsoft could do something similar with Windows 8. After people get a Windows 8 computer, they could order a Windows 8 or Windows subscription that would give them access to SkyDrive storage and Skype minutes, and it also could give them access to Windows updates that you would have to pay normally extra money for, or maybe you'll get those updates earlier. Things like that they could include with this sort of bundle. But of course, considering right now most people only upgrade to new versions of Windows when they buy a new computer, that kind of model might just not work well with Windows as an operating system. Moving on to Barnes & Noble and the Nook HD and Nook HD Plus. As you know, Google launched the Nexus 7 back in July. Earlier this month, Amazon launched the new Kindle lineup, which includes the Kindle Fire, the Kindle Fire HD, and the Kindle Fire HD 8.9. And now adding to this mix, Barnes & Noble has announced 2 brand new tablets that will compete directly with these other tablets. They're called the Nook HD and Nook HD Plus, which are essentially the Barnes & Noble version, or Barnes & Noble versions of the Kindle Fire HD and Kindle Fire HD 8.9. The Nook HD is more of the Kindle Fire HD because it's essentially a 7-inch tablet, which is actually kind of impressive since it has an IPS display at a high 1440 by 900 resolution, which actually outdoes the Fire HD and the Nexus 7. It will be powered by a speedy TI Mat 4 dual-core processor at 1.3 GHz. It's not quite the Tegra 3 inside of the Nexus 7, but it also is better than the Kindle Fire HD's processor, from what I can tell. It'll have either 8 gigs or 16 gigs of storage. It'll support micro SD card slots for external storage, so you can get the 8 gigabyte model and add an extra 32 gigabytes later with an SD card slot if you want. And that's something that we don't find in these other tablets. Additionally, you'll find 1 gig of RAM on this tablet. Barnes & Noble claims that the Nook HD is the lightest 7-inch tablet on the market, and that hasn't stopped them from adding a larger battery. It supports 10 hours of battery life. It'll ship in October for a standard $200 price tag, while the higher capacity 16 gig model will cost $230. The Nook HD Plus is a more high-end device, but not actually just high-end, it's just a little bit bigger. It's more for those just wanting a little bit more, or more of a tablet, because the Nexus 7, or not Nexus 7, the Nook HD is more of an e-reader according to Barnes & Noble, while the Nook HD Plus is more of a media consumption device. It has a larger 9-inch IPS display at an impressive 1920 by 1080 resolution, along with a faster 1.5 GHz dual-core processor, 1 gig of RAM, 16 or 32 gigs of storage, and it will offer the same 10 hours of battery life, and it should arrive in October for a bit more at $270, while the 32 GB model will sell for $300, and it will also have that micro SD card slot. So to wrap that part up, the Nook HD, it is smaller, will compete with the Nexus 7 and the Kindle Fire HD, while the Barnes & Noble Nook HD Plus is a little bit bigger, more of a tablet, and will compete with the Nook, or the the Kindle Fire HD 8.9, as well as I guess any other 9-inch tablet that you can find on the market, or 8.9 around there. So now that you know about the Nook HD, you might want to know what's the best tablet to get: the Nexus 7, the Kindle Fire HD, or the Nook HD. Which one's the best 7-inch tablet on the market? And honestly, it's kind of a tough decision to decide for just generally anybody, because each kind of tablet has its own pros and cons. For example, the Kindle Fire HD is really good for those that want a really solid and unified ecosystem that works just well. It's for the less tech savvy people who are looking for a tablet. The Nook HD is very similar to the Kindle Fire HD. It's also a tablet, but it's also really tied into Amazon or Barnes & Noble's ecosystem, which means you're kind of stuck with Nook books, Nook apps, all those kind of things, just like you are with the Amazon device. You're stuck with the Amazon services. So as far as the difference between the Kindle Fire and Nook, it's kind of, what do you want? Do you want Amazon or do you want Barnes & Noble? So if you want Amazon, maybe you really like Amazon Prime. You are a member of that. You have a bunch of books on Amazon. Oh, you had a Kindle in the past. But if you are into the Nook, you might be interested in Barnes & Noble. Maybe you have a local store that you go to all the time. And you just want to have it work with that, because I'm pretty sure that if you have Barnes & Noble Nook, you can get support by going into a Barnes & Noble store, and you don't get that with Amazon, and that's something people might actually like. The Nook HD is also really tied into the Barnes & Noble stuff, so if you had a previous Nook in the past, then that's kind of a good upgrade for you. The Google Nexus 7 is kind of on the opposite side of things. Instead of being very limited to one ecosystem, the Nexus 7 is very open. It comes with Google software, but it also allows you to install hundreds of thousands of different applications, including the Amazon Kindle and Barnes & Noble apps. So if you want to get Amazon ebooks or Barnes & Noble ebooks on your Nexus 7, you can do that, and you can also get Google Books if you want. And personally, I really prefer the Nexus 7 because I like the more customizable and open experience. But for the average consumer, maybe you'd prefer the Kindle Fire or the Barnes & Noble Nook. That's because maybe you want a simpler device that just works with this Nexus 7, might require some configuring and things like that. Moving on to our final article, let's go ahead and talk about the Samsung Galaxy Note 2 and its arrival in the United States. Over the past year, Samsung has transformed into a much larger and much more powerful smartphone manufacturer. When it comes to smartphones arriving in the United States, usually you find them arrive on one or two carriers, and each carrier will usually have a slightly different version. For example, the HTC One X is an international phone. It managed to arrive on AT&T under the One X name, but on Sprint it's named the HTC Evo 4G LTE. Both are the same phone essentially, but they have completely different names that kind of confuse consumers and just kind of trick them in many ways. Because Sprint could advertise that their version is better, while AT&T could advertise that their version is better. And that's just not very, I guess, upfront. I think it's better if they have the same name, look the same, work the same, and are essentially the same. Like, you know what, the Galaxy S3 launched. It launched across the United States in all the carriers, and it was the same phone exactly. Same with iPhone 5 and iPhone 4. It's same phone, all the carriers, just different networks essentially. So Samsung was in a very similar situation to HTC a year ago when they launched things like the Galaxy S and Galaxy S2, as well as the Galaxy Note. A carrier like Sprint got the Galaxy S2 Epic 4G Touch, while Verizon got the Samsung Captivate, and AT&T got the Galaxy S2 Skyrocket. It just kind of confused people. They didn't really know what they were getting. They were like, oh, that Samsung Captivate looks good on Verizon, but I'm on AT&T, I can't get it. They just didn't really know that the same phone was on AT&T, just under a different name. Things like that kind of confuse people. At least the average consumer, they didn't really know all the difference between all these different phones on each carrier. But a couple of months ago, Samsung launched the Galaxy S3 in the United States, which was pretty impressive. They managed to get the exact same version of the phone on the top 4 carriers in the United States, as well as several smaller carriers, which is something that only Apple's been able to do in the past. But now Samsung is finally being able to do the same thing. Apple and Samsung are obviously the two biggest smartphone manufacturers in the world. The iPhone and the Galaxy S phones are really dominant phones as far as Android and iOS goes. Recently, Samsung announced the Galaxy Note 2, which is essentially a larger and slightly faster version of the Galaxy S3. And today, Samsung actually went ahead and announced their launch details in the United States. It will have a release date in mid-November across the top carriers, including Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, and T-Mobile, as well as US Cellular. It'll arrive around the same time across all the carriers with the same phone, same name, Galaxy Note 2. If you don't remember back in the past, the Galaxy Note, the original one, actually arrived on AT&T first, and then they arrived on T-Mobile like 6 months later. This is a little bit different. It's all the carriers at the same time. That's going to be really a huge thing for Samsung. They'll be able to make a ton of money off of this thing, just like they did with the Galaxy S3, because it's available to anyone in the United States on any of the top carriers looking for a smartphone. Samsung Galaxy Note 2 has a larger 5.5-inch HD Super AMOLED display. It doesn't have as many pixels as the original Galaxy Note, but it still has 128 by 720 pixels, which is good enough. It has 16 gigs of storage, a speedy 1.6 GHz quad-core processor, which supports 4G LTE. And when it comes to pricing, US Cellular is the only carrier accepting pre-orders right now. It'll sell for $300 for them on a contract, and I'm expecting the same price across the board. That just kind of makes sense. That's around the same price that the Galaxy Note launched, that the Galaxy Note cost when it arrived. It's going to be the same sort of thing with this phone. So that's about it for this podcast, the Prime Podcast. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel for more updates. We actually upload 2 videos a week. On Saturdays, we upload podcasts just like this, and on Sundays, we upload gaming videos. In the past, we've done Minecraft. We'll do more Minecraft in the future. But right now, we're actually doing Saints Row the 3rd. And we'll continue to upload those until we go through the co-op campaign completed. So stay tuned for that. You can subscribe to get all that. You can also check out theprime.co. That's our blog, where you can find everything we talked about today, and stuff that we publish over the next few weeks and so on. We publish stuff on the site daily, and you can also see these videos stuff on the site too, because we upload those to our site as well. So you can check that out. We also would like to suggest you check out redhello.com if you're into Minecraft, looking for new servers, wanting to just see servers, things like that. If you want to play Minecraft, redhello.com is a good server to check out, and that's about it.